Hi, good day. Well, this is another speed painting exercise, and this image is one that we tried in class, and I personally find it very interesting because it's a great composition, some beautiful colours. I just love the expression on this model's face because it's so enigmatic. You've no idea really what she's thinking. Is she arrogant? Is she showing disdain? Is she passionate? Is it an erotic image? I don't know. I mean, what I like about it, and what I think will make it a good painting, is that you're going to double take. You're going to be looking at that expression to try and understand, to try and interpret it. And that's the whole idea of a painting. You want people to look at it and look at it again, and not just walk past to look at some other image. As I said, I love the colour. I love the hair. I love the ruddiness of the cheeks. I love her lips. I love the freckles. So it's got everything that I like going for it, which is why I chose it. And the thing probably most appealing is all the highlights and the contours of the skin. It really shows the three-dimensionality of the face. So that's what's most appealing for me. So how to go about painting this? Well, my normal suggestions or advice or rules apply. I paint from back to front, do the background first and then the foreground. Always makes sense to me. From dark to light, so the hair, the shadows, before the lighter areas, and then, of course, very finally, all those lovely highlights. Also, paint very, very thinly. I always advocate painting very thinly, especially on these MDF boards, because then you can very quickly, using wet in wet, you can actually you can complete the painting very, very quickly, or get 95% there anyway in one session. And yes, so paint all over, cover the board in paint. The whole idea is that the sooner you get a tonal map of the image, the sooner you're going to get a good idea of whether your drawing is accurate. Is it hanging together? Does it look like it's going in the right direction? So all those little rules and tricks are designed to get you as quickly as possible to all the interesting bits, the highlights, and all the various shapes that are going to make it stand out as a picture. Okay, so let's get into it. Right, because I'm not doing any preliminary drawing, I need to stand way back and just analyze these various positions. Now, I choose a board that is almost exactly double the size of the A4 piece of paper. It makes it a lot easier when you're doing measuring, for example. I'm not doing any measuring today, but what it means is the ratio of the length to the height is the same with my board, which makes it a lot easier. So what I'm also looking at is the various negative shapes that I'll need to try and reproduce. Because basically an image is just a mass of shapes, and if you reproduce those shapes accurately, then your painting is going to be accurate. So we know from what I said before that that left eye is slightly off from center. So it's somewhere there. The right eye is more or less central. And it's almost a quarter of the sheet. So that eye is somewhere around there. The other eye, so if I reproduce that angle, the other eye is going to be along here somewhere. And as I said before, there's a very sharp triangle. So if I can reproduce these various shapes, I'm going to go a long way towards getting it looking right. Right, this part of the jaw is almost vertical, and it's about a quarter of the way along, so it's going to be something like this. The angle of her face is something like this. And just look at the shape, just unfocus your eyes and look at the shape of the face. The chin is going somewhere like that. Right, okay. So I'm looking at the negative shape now. It's coming out something like that. That negative shape is something like that. The chin there. The nose, the bottom of the nose is almost halfway up the shape, which coincides with that triangle anyway. So her nose is actually somewhere like this. We decided the eye is around here somewhere. The mouth is something like that. The gap between her nose and the top of her lips is a lot smaller than the gap between the bottom of her lips and her chin. So looking at these eyebrows, and I was talking about in fact that eyebrow is quite high up, isn't it? And there's this big curling around there and around there. Right, okay, well that's more or less where the face is. It looks bloody awful at this point in time. And the tricky bit is going to be that hand that's going to go here like this, around there. Okay, the hair is somewhere like this, and there's all that hair there. The bit of ear is somewhere in line. Okay, there we are. That's what I'm going to work with. It could turn out to look absolutely terrible. Let's have a look. Now, I said before that I normally work back to front, but then I said I want to be able to do graffiti to do all this hair. So in this particular case, I'm going to work together. When I say I'm going to work together, I'll be doing the dark and the light together at the same time. So this is a little bit different to what I normally do, because for whatever reason, most of my paintings tend to have a darker background. Notice I'm putting on the paint very, very thinly. I'm just trying to get an idea of the accuracy of this face. Right, I think at this stage I will actually do that background. Right, the paint I happen to be putting on looks a bit pinky, reddy, it's warm. I need to put more yellow ochre on, but I'm not fussed at this stage because I'm going to put multiple layers on. So this is just going to disappear into the colour. Here we are. Right, obviously that's going to be overlaid with all those big curls. I normally use a bigger brush than this, but for some reason I can't find it. I normally use a house brush. In fact, I can see it over there, I think. Right, here we are. Now you can see how thin this paint is. You can hardly see any brush strokes. I only put brush strokes, visible brush strokes, when I want to have visible brush strokes. But at this stage, I want very thin paint. Okay, so as I'm doing this, I'm looking up at the picture and I'm deciding that how far into the hair I need to be moving this background, because it's going to be overlaid. So what I'm eventually going to be doing is doing this kind of stuff, which is going to give all those individual hairs. Right, in order for those individual hairs to show, I'm going to actually darken the background as it comes into the hair area, because to make the individual hairs show, I need that contrast between, my phone keeps on making a noise. I need that contrast between the mid-tone of the background of the MDF and the red of the hair. Okay, so that was working so far from back to front. Right, I'm exclusively, at this point anyway, using the Zorn palette. Now obviously this red is nothing like the red that you can see in that image, but as I keep on saying repetitively, it doesn't matter, it's going to come out in the wash, which may be a phrase that people aren't familiar with, but it means it's not finished until the fat lady sings. So you should never comment on people's pictures until they ask you to comment, because that's when they think that they finished or they're close to finishing. Right, what I do also is, when I'm choosing a colour, when you look at the hair, for example, the colour that I want to paint is the base colour. So the darkest colour that you see, because all the light bits are going to be overlaying the base colour of whatever it is that you're painting. Now, I mean, obviously that colour is totally wrong, but but bear with me. So, as I said, work thinly from dark to light. And work with the biggest brush that you can get away with. So doing this very soon, very soon, you get a good idea of how your painting is progressing. Right, there's a circular bit on that chin. There's a bit of shadow on either side of the up of the mouth. There's quite an area of darkness over here. Darkness on the top of the nose. The hand is fairly pale. So, still working on the darks. There's a very dark bit around the side of the nose there, around the side of the eye, and it's coming in there like this. Look, you can use your finger. It's actually too thin to be using your fingers at this stage, but I use my fingers all the time. Right, I'm not locked into the position of all these shapes yet. I'm not sure that the mouth is in that position. Always be aware that you're not losing the tilt. It's very easy to do that, because your brain is forever trying to compensate for the angle and straighten things up. So you've got to fight that tendency. Right, okay. So we're getting some idea of how it's looking. And at this stage, I might start adding some paler skin. Right, there's a paleness that comes up around there. There's a paleness that's defining that. There's some paleness that goes over there, over there. When you're doing your brush strokes, you should follow the contour of whatever it is you're painting. Because if you leave your inadvertently or out of your personal desire to do so, the brush strokes should complement the painting that you're doing, the colour. Right, her eyes are actually pretty much closed. So my maxim of my rule of covering the board as quickly as possible is what I'm doing. I want to even if the colours are incorrect, I don't really care at this stage. Right, okay, I've got a feel for how the face is looking. I think I'll move to a smaller brush and get some of that darkness back in. So I'm constantly referring up to the image. And as I do these strokes, I'm looking at the relative positions of all these various shapes. And of course, you're going to get them wrong from time to time. Right, now, the distance between the eyes is typically an eye width. So you have to keep in mind the distance between the eyes. Right, I'm just going to rough in that shape. The eyes kind of comes down slightly. Maybe I'm doing that bag there. She's got, her eyes are looking down, and because of that they look half closed. It's very easy to get the position of the eyes wrong, but that seems to be about right. Right, the distance between the eyes. Look how the corner of that eye is compared to the edge of her nose and the edge of her mouth. It's in line with the side of her nose, and the mouth extends a little bit further. And the same thing applies at the other side. So once you think you've got the eyes right, then you can start thinking about getting the position of the nose right. And right now, that nose feels like it should be a lot more over here. And that nostril over here. And this mouth, you can now see, is off, I think. Probably needs to extend over here more. So, let's look at this triangle again. That's a very shallow triangle. And I think we're pretty close. As I said, I'm not that locked into getting total accuracy with this. She's got quite thick lips. Right, okay. Let's do some more. Her lips actually extend quite high. They're just very, very pink, so you can't really see it. Now, because the paint is very thin, you can move it around quite easily. Right, often I paint with my fingers. So I hope I've been following my own rules. As you can see, I'm just now applying the light areas. And obviously you do move backwards and forwards. Between light and dark. Right, I mean you'll notice that I've got all sorts of paints on my brush. But because it's all wet, you can move it around quite easily. And it's no big deal if you haven't quite got the right colour at that position. Right, it's very important to actually stand back and check out how you're going. Now that chin looks very big, but then it is very big. But have I exaggerated it? Possibly it needs to be darker down here. So at this stage you should be looking at all the subtle variations of colour. Right, let's enhance the darks again. Just recheck all the positions of all these various the objects, the nose, the mouth. Obviously the most important thing is the eyes, because that really is how people are going to judge how successful your picture is. It's the eyes. Right, have I got that circular shape there? It's looking pretty good, I think. Have I got all these features lined up? I think her mouth is a bit crooked. I think in real life, I think it is actually a bit crooked. I think this needs to be darker here. I mean, I'm always double checking these various distances. Is that too big? It's approximately the same width as the mouth. So I think possibly the mouth is a bit too big. So that's about right, I think. The ear is there, and there's some hair going over there. There's a dark patch here. There's a dark patch over here. There's some darkness over here. The hair comes down like this. Now I've lost track on how much time I'm spending on this, but it doesn't feel like it's been a long time. At this stage, and prematurely, I always like to put a bit of a highlight, because once again you suddenly get a good idea how you're tracking. Well, I think that's all I want to do with this demonstration. It was just to show you the technique of applying paint and how you can really get a result pretty quickly. Obviously this has still got a long way to go, but you can see the way it's going to go. So from now on, it's purely a matter of refinements. So I'm not sure how long that took, maybe a couple of hours. You lose track of time as you're painting. But I'll just continue working on this, and then I'll make up a video. Thanks for watching.